back to Life Expressions. I'm your host, Shari Hineti Elon, and I'm so excited you're here with us today. Today, my guest is very inspiring. He is a co founder of Vision to Reality Foundation and a winner of 30 Under 30 of BC Business Magazine. He's making a big difference for newcomers and young professionals in Canada. As a co founder of V2RF, he has been helping people turn their dreams into reality. And today we'll dive into how he does it with his team at V2RF and, of course, with his co founder, Winnie Sue. We'll hear some amazing stories and get practical tips for standing out early in your career, building strong connections, and making a positive impact. Please welcome to Life Expressions my guest today, Ryan Ching. Hi, Ryan.
Hello, good morning. Thank you for having me.
Of course. Thank you so much for being here. What inspired you to co found V2RF?
Well, I joined on the team. One of the main reasons why is so I came to Canada in 2014, and I think, unlike most, had a much easier time integrating just because I was so attuned to coming to Canada. Growing up, I had visited Canada quite a lot, visiting my grandmother who lived here. And so adapting to the Canadian culture wasn't as big of a difficulty as it is for most. And so I was incredibly privileged to be able to attend high school here, attend university here, and then eventually get into the workforce here without much difficulty. But certainly that's not the same story for everyone else. When I met Winnie, I had worked for her for a bit, and then I heard about her story when she came to Canada some 30 years ago,
Yeah.
starting her own business here without, many connections, not having many resources available, and just overall hearing how difficult that journey was, with the understanding that we now have information at our fingertips much more easily than it was available 30 years ago. But even then, there's still an abundance of information, and not that many ways of finding out what's true and what's not.
Yeah.
And so when Winnie approached me with the idea of starting this nonprofit to support people in their business journeys and their entrepreneurial journeys, and just to make that process easier for others, it was something that really resonated with me given my background, and that's kind of why I joined on.
Yeah, that's great. And how has it been so far? How old is V2RF?
We're just heading into our fourth year of operations now, which is now kind of wild to think about. We started really just the organization started as a business case, and then it started as four co-founders and a couple of volunteers that were from Winnie's close circle. And now we're an organization supporting more than 1,500 members with a team of over 50 volunteers. And we service primarily still in BC, the mainland, but we work with interns all across Canada. I think we have representation just around five provinces and 22 different post-secondary institutions. So it's certainly scaled up, and we're very glad to be able to continue supporting members in rural parts of BC, but also now slowly spreading across Canada.
Yeah. And what are the specific programs that you do to support these newcomers?
So when we think of kind of our core mission, it is to support newcomers and immigrants in their business and entrepreneurial journey.
Yeah.
So it's kind of twofold. Some people want to integrate into the workforce and they require a bit of local experience to get there. Some people want to start their own businesses. In fact, a big chunk of people who come to Canada do. And so we provide different types of support for whatever their needs are. We have now actually six core programs and services. So, in terms of entrepreneurship, we have a workshop series that teaches you kind of the essentials of starting a business from, figuring out your name and your business plan all the way to financing your business. We find business professionals to come talk at every stage of that business journey just to give you more of an understanding of how to do it. We have a storytelling series that complements the workshops, which gets a business professional, someone who's experienced in starting their own small business, to come and talk about their journey of starting their business and how it relates to that topic of that month. So, say small business financing. We might do a workshop on how to get financing, what type of financing is available, and then get someone to come in and as a storytelling event to come talk about their experience with actually getting funding, what are some of the challenges that they had to go through to get that funding, and then maybe even how to utilize it in some common pitfalls.
Yeah.
We have also now actually a brand new series in 2025, which is called Bud to Bloom. And it's geared more towards personal development, but also just adapting to Canada. So things that everyone just about needs to understand, things like taxes, things like networking essentials and whatnot. So it's really just to kind of help you hone your skills to adapt to the Canadian workforce. We also just launched our new advisory board services. So earlier last year, or rather late last year, we heard of the closure of Small Business BC, which leaves quite a big vacuum in BC in terms of support for small businesses. Now, obviously, we don't operate at the same scale, but we do want to be able to help some of these small businesses succeed. And so we've teamed up with a bunch of local professionals who are willing to give back some of their time to support small businesses. And for now, we'll be doing drop-in sessions, catering to different industries. And then as demand grows, we may look at providing one-on-one services down the line.
Wow. That's a lot.
It
And
is, and we
that's,
still have more.
yeah. Are there more? Yes, please share.
Three more. We
Yeah.
have a mentorship program, which we primarily pair two mentees with one mentor. And
Yeah.
so this is open to everyone. It's completely free, and it's a good opportunity for them to build their connections, but also just be able to have someone to ask questions.
Yeah.
I think that's so essential, especially even if you're starting a business or if you're just trying to figure out how to get started in your own professional journey. That's definitely one way to do it across 10 weeks. And then also a brand new learning and development series we now call Thriving in Canada. It's a program that's specific to our connectors, so our volunteers and interns, to help them grow as professionals while they're also supporting our operations. So making it a two-way street so that they can grow. And then everything is housed on our community platform, Mighty Networks, which is where all of our resources are shared, where our events are held. So it's a great way for people to connect, to build those connections, but also to chat one-on-one. And that's primarily where everything is.
Yeah, and I'm proud to say that I'm a member of V2RF and I get to access these resources as well. But Ryan, can you please share with us some success stories that you have witnessed because of the help and support that V2RF has given?
So I'll think on kind of both ends of the spectrum. So we support newcomers and immigrants in their professional journeys, but then also in the entrepreneurial.
Yeah,
In terms of their professional journeys, I think just getting into the community opens them up to a lot of other opportunities that you typically wouldn't imagine. So things like going to networking opportunities, but also we have a bunch of partners across BC. So we typically have a lot of representation at networking events like Surrey Board of Trade or the Tri-Cities Chamber of Commerce. And through these events, it's actually a great opportunity to meet people. And whenever we advertise these events, of course, we also want our members to be able to take advantage of membership pricing and go to some of these events. And quite a lot of people have taken advantage of that, going to these events, meeting people, and some people have actually been able to find, full-time or part-time opportunities through those networking events. Through our own kind of internship programs that we do, we've now worked with over, I think, 80 interns in the past 3 years. And most of these students are mature students from their own home country with years, maybe even decades of experience, but they find difficulty getting their foot in the door here because of a lack of local experience. And so, through a 4 or 8 month internship with Vision to Reality, I'm very happy to say that a large portion of them were actually able to find full-time or part-time opportunities after their internships. A couple that stand out actually, I had uh, two particular interns who had over a decade of experience in their home countries, both, very far along in their own fields. And then they decided to, uproot their entire lives, bring their family over to Canada for a better life. And most people are kind of sold the idea that coming to Canada is a beautiful place, and it is. But there certainly are difficulties when it comes to actually adapting and setting your life here in Canada. And finding work, of course, is the big piece to it.
Yeah.
And I'm very happy to say that we were able to, through our connections or through referrals, we were able to find them full-time opportunities just shortly after their internship. And which is where they're still working to now and are, it's helped them kind of adapt to Canada, but also helped them really settle into Canada, now with that financial piece taken care of.
Yeah.
And of course, on the entrepreneurial side, we're happy to say that we've supported a lot of different people in the various stages of their journey. One of the big resources we offer on our community is this course called Smart Start 101, which kind of gives you a step-by-step, it's like bite-sized pieces on how to start your own business. We launched it just kind of mid last year, and to date, we have had 112 people take that course. And we've had really good feedback on how it's really supported their journey in starting their own business. So certainly hearing stories like those are kind of what keeps us going.
Yeah, that's great. And it's, yes, you have mentioned it's good to know that your programs have actually helped people realize their dreams and turn their visions into reality. For yourself, what would you like to say to young people who come to Canada and would want to realize their aspirations?
I think there's a couple of things. So maybe we'll talk about this in two ways. I think there's the young professional piece, and then there's if they're also a newcomer piece.
Yes,
Now, I think one piece of advice that's applicable to just about everyone, and I've actually said this earlier this year at another event, uh, there is probably some form of formula to success. Now, I couldn't tell you what all the factors are, but the big one is taking initiative. And I think without that, it doesn't get you anywhere. An initiative comes in many different forms. Last year, when I had the opportunity to speak to a bunch of high school students, I told them that initiative was a couple of things, but showing up to the event was part of it.
true.
So I think that's applicable to just about everything else. Showing up is half the battle. If
Yeah,
you don't do what you were intending to do, if you don't go to that networking event, or if you don't go apply for that job, or if you don't go to that interview, the chances are nothing's going to happen. Nothing's going to come from it. But, taking that step, having the courage to start step one, which is showing up to something, may help you snowball into something. Maybe it doesn't, or maybe it helps you build that connection that may snowball into something. Initiative definitely is one of the most important pieces. As it pertains to newcomers, I think there's also the cultural aspect to it to kind of consider. Canada is unique in the sense that we have, as every culture does, our own customs when it comes to how you would adapt into the workplace. And Canada specifically has one of, requiring almost networking to succeed and building some relationships before you can really get into a good working relationship with someone. And I think that's important for people to understand. Um, what I find is, even in our own community, that a lot of people will come, with kind of the notion of the only thing that you need to succeed is showing up, which half the battle. But then also really learning, just adjusting to the Canadian culture, I think is the other piece. And it doesn't come as easily because how do you learn about culture if you don't have an opportunity to kind of immerse yourself in it, right?
yeah,
And so that's kind of what we try to help bridge the gap with in terms of some of our services. So whether it's some of those in-house workshops that we talked about, whether it's the Blood to Boom series, where we kind of just talk about what adapting to the Canadian culture is like. It sounds vague, but there are certain steps to doing it. Whether it's just, small, ranging from like small talk to actually building some rapport through long-term engagements. So there are certainly tips and tricks to kind of learn how to do it, and I would definitely encourage people to kind of seek that out.
yeah. And V2RF provides that, like learn how to learn about Canadian culture.
Yeah, throughout the year, throughout discussion posts, throughout some of the modules that we do, it's definitely something that we try to get people to acknowledge and also understand, because we do think that it really is one of those big pieces that makes or kind of breaks your journey.
Yeah. And I particularly like what you have said that taking initiative is winning half the battle already. You have to take initiative and take action to what you want to happen. And that is so true. As a young leader, Ryan, what strategies have helped you build strong networks and partnerships?
There's been a couple of things. I think my journey is a bit unique in that I actually made most of my network from working in vision to reality. So of course I have a great network to, be thankful for when it comes to having met most people through either events or through some of our partners, or even through Winnie, who typically, like, she is my mentor and she's also my partner for Vision to Reality, and she just about takes every opportunity to introduce me to other people, for which I'm very, very thankful for. But it's certainly not the same experience for everyone else. So finding a mentor was a big piece, of course, but then also, again, that piece of taking initiative, going to events. I try my best despite a Monday to Friday work schedule that's beyond vision to reality. I still try to go to events that some of our partners hosts to go meet people. I've also had, of course, the privilege of working with a lot of interns throughout the last couple of years. And as we mentioned, a lot of them are mature students with decades of experience. And so even if it's not local experience, they still have a wealth of knowledge for me to draw on. And so I'm very happy to really be connected with a lot of these people, be able to draw on their experiences whenever I have questions. It's really kind of a two-way street. Like, we provide them with opportunities to get local experiences, but then also gives me the opportunity to learn from them.
Yeah.
And so going to these events, building these networking relationships, I think it has been kind of what's given me this opportunity. And of course, also last year winning the BC Business 30 Under 30 award has opened my kind of network into a whole new spectrum of people. My contacts typically were either aviation related, which was what I did professionally for the last couple of years, or nonprofit related. And through that award, I was able to meet not only just 2024's winners who were primarily, business owners, but we are also in a chat with all of the previous winners. So I have now actually made connections with over hundreds of past winners as well. And that certainly kind of opened my eyes to how wide the industry is.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Yeah. And perhaps it also has to boil down to your behavior and your attitude towards the people that you meet and being open and willing to listen. And the way you have thanked Winnie as your mentor is such a great deal as well. Acknowledging the people who are in your life and helping you grow is also a good thing. And it would do well for others to do so. But for yourself, Ryan, what do you think are the best qualities or skills that a person should have to excel in the competitive job market, especially for the newcomers who are just trying to put their foot in the door?
Ooh, there's a couple of pieces there. I think for the modern age anyways, adaptability and flexibility and keeping up with technological trends is kind of that's like the important piece I think that everyone should keep in mind.
Yeah.
Everyone's talked a bit about AI tools and how it's a big piece in giving you an edge in your job applications or starting your own business. And certainly that's important, just keeping up with those trends. But to me, more importantly, is actually kind of the mindset that you talked about. So gratitude is one thing, finding a mentor is the other, but keeping a growth-oriented mindset, and especially as a young professional with the understanding that, either you have just a bit of experience or only theory from post-secondary institution, uh, keeping in mind that not everything is kind of it. Like, having going into it with an open mind to be able to learn and adapt quickly, I think is the most important thing. When I started Vision to Reality with my three other co-founders, they have significantly more experience than I did. Um, Back then when I started, I really only had some experience in the accounting field and just a bit of experience working with nonprofits through university, and that was about it. And so, came into it with an open mindset, and I've learned so much over the last couple of years, certainly from my co-founders, but then also from just some of the other professionals I work with in the organization, and then, of course, learning on the job, which is, I think, the biggest piece that everyone will experience. And I don't think it's possible without keeping an open mind. If you come into it thinking, I know everything and I can do the best job available with what I have, it doesn't give you a whole lot of room to grow as if, or rather, if you come into it thinking you're a sponge and wanting to absorb as much information as possible, I think that sets you up the best for success.
Yeah, that's great. Keeping a growth-oriented mindset and knowing that education does not stop at school. Learning is a never-ending process,
Yeah.
right? Yeah, so learning does not stop at school, and you've got to be open and for growth, as what you have mentioned. And you've mentioned in the aviation industry, and now which industry are you in?
So when I worked in aviation, it was doing emergency management for the Vancouver Airport Authority. I've recently moved on to supporting the Provincial Health Services Authority in preparation for the FIFA World Cup in 2026, also doing emergency management.
Wow, that's great. Yeah, congratulations. That's a big job and a big challenge. And let's get to giving back to the community. For sure, Vision to Reality gives back to the community and supports the community. What do you think giving back to community plays in your growth? Like, what role does it play in your growth and achieving professional and personal growth?
I think specifically for me and a couple of my co-founders, giving back to the community is kind of what drives us to do the work that we do. But even in general, I think for other people and just about for everyone, giving back to the community can be both kind of a source of fulfillment, but also just a good opportunity in general. Working in Vision to Reality, for example, has given most people an avenue to meet other people, to expand their connections, to really build out their network. And it's typically with people that they wouldn't, interact with otherwise. We now have a community of business professionals, but we also have people that are in the nonprofit space, in the banking space, in the finance space. So many different spaces that typically don't intersect with each other. You now have all of them in the same community. And it's not just specific to Vision to Reality. So I'm thinking of some of our partners, for example, where they do maybe cultural background specific, you know, themes. And it's a great way for you to meet people just by giving back to some of those communities. Um, and also on a professional level, it's still a way for you to develop your own skills. So some of the interns and volunteers that work with us, it is an opportunity for them to kind of flex the theory that they've learned and really see how it adapts to the Canadian workforce. We as an organization kind of structure ourselves similarly to a for-profit in the sense that we do have an org chart and we have something of a hierarchy. Not that we follow it strictly, but it kind of emulates what you would see in the workforce. And for a lot of people who this is kind of their first touch point into the Canadian workforce, they find it to be something that actually helps them adapt to the culture because it helps them learn about what to expect when they actually transition into, an organization locally. And so, the mix of that, the mix of the networking and the just development opportunities, I think really helps justify why giving back to the community, whether it's through volunteering or working with a nonprofit, is something that could support you professionally and personally.
Yeah, I remember my mentor, Peter Legg, he would say that help enough other people get what they want so you could get what you want in life. If you just help enough other people get what they want. That is resonating with what you're saying right now. And you have mentioned take initiative, show up, have a growth oriented mindset, be grateful. What else? What other piece of advice would you like to give to young people in Canada?
So maybe this is kind of the other piece of the formula, which is not being afraid to take risks. And I think as a young professional, especially when the stakes are still low, I think when you are young and when you're in university, for example, it's where the stakes are the lowest, where even if you try something and you fail, the only thing that might set you back is a tiny bit of time, and maybe a bit of money. Whereas down the line, when you say you have more commitments or you have more expenses, or if you have a family or if you have people to take care of, those risks magnify because now there are things at stake.
Yeah.
And so, as a young professional myself, I always encourage others to take risks, of course, responsibly, but at the same time, it really is a good opportunity for you to figure out what you like and what you don't like, and maybe try some of those ideas that you have in mind that maybe down the line you wouldn't have the flexibility or the ability to try out. Um, just that is truly, I think, a big piece. A lot of people do have a tendency of being a bit risk averse, especially when they're in university. I remember when I was in university that I was much more shy and timid, and I definitely wouldn't have, tried my hand at starting a nonprofit or even a for-profit for that matter. Uh, but really getting started early, I think, is a big piece. And when I think back to some of the connections that I've made through the Business Circle, a couple of the other friends that I've made in the nonprofit space, a lot of them started in university. Um, and it's been kind of a life-changing experience for a lot of them. And so I certainly would encourage people to really try out some of their visions early on.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you so much, Ryan. We've just welcomed year 2025. What's next for you and V2RF?
What's next for, maybe we'll start with vision to reality. Um, Quite a lot. I think earlier we've talked a bit about the different programs and services that we're starting in this year. And so certainly we're going to be tracking the performance of that and seeing how we can better fine tune it to support our members. We also talked a bit about the, closing down of small business BC and how that leaves a vacuum. And of course, we're going to try our best to be able to provide some services to support small to medium-sized businesses in BC. But then, of course, down the line, we're also looking at growth for our organization. So 2025, I think we're really going to focus on perfecting, or we'll never get to perfection, but really trying to fine tune some of our offerings to make sure membership value is, maximized for the people that are in our community. And then down the line, most likely expansion, whether it's across Canada or across the US. We've had discussions, and we are looking forward to kind of addressing those this year as well. Personally, I just look forward to another year of growth, which I think is kind of the overarching theme for me in the last couple of years. It's year four of Vision to Reality, but for me, it still feels like day one.
Wow.
I still, even after 4 years on the job, I'm still learning different things every single day. And it's been such a good journey. And I think it's given me this unique opportunity to learn things that other people may not have, given just, the unique advantages that I have with working with different people with different backgrounds, working with different partners, and getting access to events that, we are lucky to be able to have access to. And then, of course, also continue on my own journey of personal and professional development, whether it's through upskilling, it's through reading books, or if it's through doing certifications, just really kind of also preparing myself for the future.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you so much, Ryan. I appreciate our conversation. So true and so full of, shall I say, positivity and so encouraging for the young people. So thank you so much for sharing your insights and your time with us here on Life Expressions.
Thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you so much for tuning into Life Expressions. I hope you found today's conversation as inspiring and insightful as I did. We've learned that turning a vision into reality takes courage, hard work, and a commitment to giving back. And Ryan reminded us of the incredible power of community and purpose. As we wrap up, I want to leave you with this quote by Nelson Mandela. It always seems impossible until it's done. That no matter where you start, with determination and the right support, you can achieve amazing things. If you enjoyed this episode, please don't forget to share it with someone who could use a little bit of inspiration today. I'm your host, Chari Hineri Elon, and I invite you to recite this affirmation with me. I am a positive impact in all that I do, wherever I am, however I can. This is Life Expressions.